Good afternoon, guys. Introduce myself real quick, and then I'll kind of go through, what the conversation, the reason why we're here. When I was asked if I would speak at this, it was one of those things that I decided that, I've got a lot of different areas that I could speak on because I've built a couple of successful businesses now. They've really tried to get me to dial it into one. And I'm like, what's the one thing that I feel that most aspiring businesses struggle with? And that's building your team, right? So my background, I originally started my career in the media field. I worked for Dish Network for a while, which is here locally, moved up in that organization relatively far for, being in my early 20s. And then I transferred over and joined Nielsen Media Research and did the TV ratings. And that was where I thought I was going to land. Like that was, most of my peers had been there 30 years. Like they were very happy. Pay was okay. Benefits were great. I thought for sure that was where I was going to end up. Well, in 2008, when the economy crashed, people stopped paying money for marketing and advertising. So the research, the funding kind of dried up. So Nielsen ended up laying off 75% of the total staff. I made it to the very last round of layoffs they did. It's kind of like being the last man up at when the boat's sinking, and thought for sure that I was going to survive. Well, instead I had to pivot in what was now an even worse economy than if I had been laid off at the beginning of the layoffs, right? So I'm at the bottom of the economy trying to figure out what's next for me. It led me to door-to-door alarm sales, which is a very difficult business, but it was one of the only things that I could do at the time that could actually generate enough to pay my bills. So I started to get relatively good at this and was doing a little research and realized that, there's an opportunity to do okay in the alarm world. And I started my own dealership. So that was my first business that I ever did. We built a relatively good team. We were a Brinks dealer, if you're familiar with that. They changed their name to Broadview, and then they sold to ADT. Well, when I started my career there, I was an ADT salesperson. So when I left to start my own business, I got blacklisted by ADT. So when they bought Broadview, you can see how that went. They immediately canceled my contract. Literally like 3 months after the sale finalized, I got a notice in the mail stating that we hadn't hit a performance metrics, and they were eliminating us from the program. So at that point I was like, okay, well I know how to sell alarms door to door, so what else could I do, right? And the roofing business caught my eye. I had a couple of people that had done it. They had done well. There had been a major storm that had happened in Phoenix, Arizona, so I transferred down to Phoenix, and I managed to sell door-to-door 140 roofs in about 6 months, which Joe, who works for me, can say that that's an impossible feat. You can't do it in Denver, I can promise you that. The reason why that was so successful was because of the area that it hit. Phoenix isn't an area that's known for hail. So we're dealing with 35-year-old roofs that should have been replaced 10 years ago. And now I'm getting their insurance company to replace it for $500. So that was an absolute no-brainer. So it made it very easy for me, and unfortunately now got me stuck in this business, right? So when that kind of dried up, came back to Colorado, and I partnered with a couple of the guys that were with me at the alarm company, and we started a company together. We built that company to $15 million in total sales. This is all pre-COVID, so that number would be double today. We would have been about a $30 million a year annual business. We were doing 1,200 roofs a year, which is very significant. Definitely top 10 in the metro area. So one day, one of my partners walked into the office. We had two different offices. He was at our Dallas office, and told the team, not us as the other owners, he told the team that he was resigning and had one of the guys drive him to the airport. And he immediately filed suit against me and my other partner, which eventually led to the demise of the business. We decided that it was better to dissolve the business and divvy up what was left than it was to go through the tenuous legal battles and everything else involved. So now we're in this position where we're starting over again. So Roof Technologies was founded in 2022. I worked it myself that first year, did a few roofs. In 2023, I started to hire a few people, started to grow the business. This year, 2024, we're going to do $4 million in total sales, our total revenue, which we carry a lot of AR, so it's a little odd there. But we did about 200 roofs, so we're well on our way back to building back to what I lost when that partnership fell apart. One of the things during that, I also built a software program that we use for the roofing company. It's called StormCloud. It's better than a lot of the competition out there, so I decided last year to sell the primary equity stake in that business so that they can implement it and take it to market. So that business is rapidly advancing and starting to get to the point where I think that it's going to provide us some income as well. So in addition to that, I also built a real estate company utilizing roofing profits to own and manage residential real estate. We do a lot of short-term rental stuff, Airbnb. So that business has a couple of employees as well. So while I was building ASAP and getting to 1,200 roofs a year, that's something that you can't do alone. During the sales summer season, we'd run upwards of 30 sales reps out knocking doors all day selling roofs. We would have, at our peak, we had 18 full-time employees as well, in addition to the salespeople. So we're running a team of about 45 people full-time. That takes a lot. And it's something that, you ask me now, it's like, yeah, running 45 people is no big deal. You asked me in 2007 when I'm working for Nielsen, if I ever was going to manage a team of 50 people, I'd tell you there's no way. And what allowed me to get to that point and be able to grow to that scale was generating the systems that we needed to be successful. We really made sure that we compartmentalized each of these roles and positions to where everybody knew their lane. They were responsible for their one task, and as such, you could hold them accountable. When somebody mentioned you mentioned that you hired somebody and your business dips, right? Well, part of the reason, and I'm no expert and I haven't dived into your business specifically, but one of the biggest challenges that your employees are facing when you bring them on, most likely, is that there's not a predefined process for them to follow. That they know the 2 or 3 tasks that they're supposed to achieve, but what about the rest of their time? How do they spend their day? What do they do to be able to grow themselves and help grow the organization? And so when we first decide that it's time to hire, before we make that first hire, we have to build the system. We have to create the process for them to be able to jump into that role and recognize success and be able to benefit your business as opposed to harm your business. And one of the things that I see with most of us that are self-employed, we're working for our business. We are its sole employee. I was that way in 22 with this company. My real estate company is still that way for the most part. Like me and my wife basically run and manage that, by ourselves without a lot. We have a cleaner as an employee, but that's something that we struggle with. What tasks do we do well, and what tasks should we pawn off on someone else? And what you'll learn as you start to grow and as you start to develop this is that there are certain tasks that I don't do as well as some of my employees. Oh, there's a lot of tasks that I don't do as well as some of my employees. There's also tasks that are such a high value to the organization, I can't afford to pass those off because those are on me. That's my responsibility. It's my job to continue to grow and direct our business. It's Joe's job to go out there and handle the mundane details and make sure that we stay in business, right? And just to kind of let you know what Joe does for us, Joe's what we call a field supervisor, and he's out there, dealing with the customers, making sure the money gets collected. Any issues that arise, he's the guy that we're sending to go take care of them. So getting that level of responsibility off of my plate. He also meets with a lot of insurance adjusters, which, that's a whole nother weird avenue of our particular business, but it's very time consuming. If he runs 10 meetings a week with an insurance adjuster, that's really about 25 hours of his work week that's dedicated to just going out there and doing that. So that leaves that other 15 hours of growing his own network and building his own business, as a salesperson, and being able to continue to sell roofs and build commissions. So when we brought him in, it was important for me to show him, what I expected and how to be able to do that successfully and still carve out time for him to come to these groups. And he's in a BNI group, and to solicit for referral partners and cold call, knock doors, right? Go out there and sell the roofs. But if we didn't have those systems in place that I had built at ASAP, transitioning over to this company would have been much more difficult. And especially doing it myself. The first go around, I had help, right? I had 2 other people that I could rely on that helped me to build the business. Starting this company has been a lot harder. Not that I think at the end of the day, it's better to do it solo and better for me in the long run. But there's so many times that I'm looking at our struggles today and I'm like, man, if I had somebody else that was as invested as I am in this business, it would help me to achieve that next level and for us to continue to grow. So now it's important for me to just, as we hire, to say, okay, today, we're looking at for quarter one of 25, we're going to bring on 4 new virtual assistants, and I'll talk more in detail about that if you guys are really interested in those. But we've had a lot of success with virtual assistants, and we're going to bring these on to help us with some of the more regular tasks. The thing with a virtual assistant is they're going to, if you're thinking right now today, I just need a little bit of help. I need somebody to pick up these 8 things that are on my plate. The VAs are a fantastic way to do that. If you're looking for someone to be your right-hand man that's going to help you grow your business, they're a terrible idea. They're not going to do that for you. So it's a matter of figuring out, what is my need right now. So the great thing with the VAs is we pass off a lot of our data entry. We pass all of our data entry. A lot of our back and forth communication with homeowners, for, hey, has your insurance contacted you yet? No, they haven't. Okay, let me give them a call and find out what's going on, why they haven't scheduled that meeting. Okay, great, we've got the meeting scheduled. Here's the details. That's 2 or 3 hours of manpower that we're able to get done at $4 an hour. So instead of paying somebody $30 an hour to go do that, we're able to outsource that and get that same work accomplished. Now, the VAs are also, they're very checks, like they follow a script. They don't deviate. Whenever a problem arises, we get an email from our VAs saying, hey, here's the situation. I don't know how to handle it. And once we answer it and we give them feedback and tell them how to handle it, the next time that situation arrives, they go back to it and they answer it on their own. So the longer that you utilize them and the more they're a part of your business, the faster they grow and develop themselves, just like any employee. And you can start to see more and more aspects of your business that they're starting to take on. The other part of it, when we made our first hire here, for me, it was like, okay, I'm the only person involved in the business. I'm the only person that's out there selling. I'm running production. I'm doing all of this. So my first hire was somebody to handle the back end stuff. We deal with insurance negotiations, and we call it a supplement process. So I hired somebody with experience who could take all of that workload off my plate. So he was my very first hire, and it was a guy that has been in the industry as long as I have. We had a past, we'd worked together in the past, so it made it real easy to make that first hire. I started to offload all of that responsibility onto him so that I didn't have to sit there and negotiate with the insurance carriers, because that's like going to the dentist. So that made a huge benefit and allowed me to go sell more deals. So now we're selling a bunch of deals, I'm producing a bunch of deals, and I'm spending all my time out there in the field producing them. So what is the second hire that we made? Well, the second hire that we made was to hire a production person. We call him a superintendent. His job is to manage the roofing crews, to make sure that all the material shows up. When they're short on material, run and get it, dump the dump trailers, all of those aspects. So now I've gotten that level of information off my plate, and guess what? I go sell more. Well, now I've sold more. I'm running out of time running adjuster meetings. Hence, we bring in Joe, right? So I can take more of that off of my plate. So what ends up happening is every time that we bring on a new employee, I'm stacking onto what we're lacking, right? I hired Carly Tuttle, and she came in and do all of our orders and writing our initial estimates, because that's very time consuming and honestly something I don't want to do because I can't sit at a desk long enough to sit there and do all these orders, right? Place 200 orders for roofing material, I would have lost my mind. So I had to bring somebody on to do that for us, and she's done a great job. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's one of the things as a business owner that we have to realize. An employee will cost us money, right? They're going to make mistakes that cost our business money. It's part of the cost of doing business, right? We can't run a successful organization if we don't allow our employees to make those mistakes because they're never going to learn and improve without it. We had a really bad mistake last week. We hired a production coordinator. Her name is Verna. She's probably, 3 months in? She's still new enough that she doesn't fully understand. She's starting to get it, but she's still got some areas of improvement. Well, the insurance company on this particular job paid to replace 2,100 square feet of siding. She went out there and measured the house, and she's like, okay, the house is 4,100 square feet, ordered 4,100 square feet of siding. We only got paid for 2,100 square feet of siding. So now we're in a position where we've paid for 2,000 square foot of siding for labor and material that we didn't get paid for. When actually looking at the numbers, we're to break even, but we didn't make a profit, right? We did all that work for free. Now, obviously, that's a huge learning opportunity and something that cost us as a business, but yet she's never going to make that mistake again, right? That's never going to happen. And I didn't do a good job as the leader to properly warn her of those areas, because as I pushed more and more onto her plate, thinking, hey, she's doing a great job, she's starting to learn, she didn't even recognize where that mistake was going to come from. And in that particular case, too, we get to supplement back to the insurance company. We're going to ask for all of the siding because the way that they wrote their estimate, they didn't tell us it was the right and the left. They put on there the exterior 2,100 square feet. So she's reading that as they paid for the whole house. They only paid for 2 sides. So we may get lucky and get paid on it, which would be great because now that mistake made us money. But as we're looking at it right now, best case scenario, right, we're at a break even. So the great thing is that it didn't cost us actual money. It could have, but we lost profit. We lost opportunity. But if it makes that employee that much better in the future, that is a win. Because at the end of the day, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Somebody else is doing that side of the business for us. And there's a lot of it. Because we do, roofing and siding and windows and gutters. And she's making sure that it all flows, that it all keeps going, that it doesn't stop. I can be at one of these events and, down the street, we're meeting with a building inspection to finalize the permits on a car hit a building. It's a $58,000 project. That's still happening while I'm here today standing in front of you. So you can't get to those levels without a proper staff and without hiring people to do that. One of the other things that I recognize is, as we're making those hires is we're afraid, right? We've built this business, and this business is providing enough income for us to live on, right? And it's taking care of our family, hopefully, and sometimes it's not quite there yet. And you're thinking, man, I can't afford to hire someone. Are any of you guys in that position right now that you're thinking, I just can't afford to make a hire? Like if I hired somebody, that's going to take so much out of what we're making that I won't be able to survive. And I know that leap of faith that you take is difficult as well. And one of the things that I've noticed in myself, and I've gotten almost to the point of cockiness with it now, I hate to admit that, but when we take risks and we calculated risk, we're always going to be provided for. I've ran into situations where we've pushed it to the brink. And every time that it gets difficult and we're stressed and we're thinking, oh man, how are we going to get out of this one? We end up on the other side in a better position than where we started. And a lot of that goes back to the faith, right? And being able to believe that we're going to be taken care of, that we can make mistakes and we're going to pay for those. Nobody's going to help us out of those. But if we continue to do the right thing and build ourselves and our business and our families, we're not going to fall to the bottom, right? We may take a couple steps down the stairs that we've been trying to climb, but we're not rolling all the way down and have to pull ourselves out of the gutter. So for me, it's more about making sure that we're making calculated decisions, right? And that we're not just, if you go out there and you're just throwing money at the wolves and, I'm going to hire all these positions that I don't really need yet, then obviously that's not going to work. But when you're like, man, I need a superintendent because I'm the one that's doing all the production and it's affecting the business because I'm not able to go out there and sell. I'm not able to hire. I'm not able to bring somebody else in to make this business better. That's when it's time to make that hiring decision. And right before you make the hiring decision, coming up with the plan. I emailed Joe our plan for Q1 and said, here's the list of people we're going to hire. Here's what the duties are going to be. And this is the individuals who are responsible for training them. And I said, I'm delegating to you to make the initial interviews and to scan through the resumes and narrow it down to 2 or 3 people. And I'm going to do that second interview and make the final call. But I'm delegating those tasks off of my plate because if I put them on my plate, they're probably not going to get done because there's too much other things. But having 3 interviews versus 10 interviews is a huge difference. And he can spend a couple of days weeding through and finding the right people to join our company. And so those are the things as a business owner that we have to really be able to identify of when and how we make the transition. So is there any questions that you guys have on that? Yeah.
So you kind of talked about the sequence that you hired in. Mm-hmm. Could you speak maybe towards how you identified that sequence?
So yeah, and Grant, who's was our first supplementer, we'll call him. He was the first hire that I made. It was an obvious one because he fell in my lap. He reached out to me asking me for a reference because he was applying for a job, and I'm like, hey man, we need to talk. I had already made the decision that we were rolling at a good enough pace that it was time to bring somebody on board, but I hadn't fully identified that he was going to be the first hire. It was more an opportunity that just arose. It's like, hey, I've got to offload some of this work. Here's a guy that can pick it up, so I'm going to take advantage of it. I'd say that had that not happened, I probably would have hired the superintendent first, just because that took more of my time. So it's finding the position that is the most burdensome on you and offloading that first. The other part of it is finding the what you're not good at, right? The avenue, like for example, I'm Carly. I hired because I'm not good at it. I can't sit in front of a computer and do orders all day long. I can when I have to, but that is definitely not the job that I want, and that I can offload that onto somebody that can do a better job of it, right? Like, no offense, male, female, you have your own opinions, but women are more detail oriented than we are. And I'm going to make more mistakes because I'm whipping through it too quickly. Carly sits there and spends her time and makes sure she does it correctly. Has she missed something? Absolutely. Everybody does. We're all human. That just means that the superintendent gets to run to the material supplier and pick it up. It's not the end of the world. Things go on. So those are the decisions to make and how to decide what tasks to offload. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How are you finding these VAs for $4 an hour?
I'm happy to share that. So there's several different ways. If you're looking to hire a virtual assistant, is it what? I mean, they are Catholic, so I think absolutely, right? Most, and not all of them, but a huge amount. Most of ours are in the Philippines. I found that they seem to be the most loyal and dedicated. There's so many different areas you can hire from. You can hire from Central America. You can hire from Southeast Asia. Those are probably the main two where we're finding good VAs. And you have to decide, like, what are you looking for? Because everyone's a little different. If you're looking for more tech-based, then the Indians are better, for sure. There's no question about it. They're more technical savvy. And I say that India, right? If you're looking for somebody that, your business service is bilingual, English, Spanish, then Central America is going to make a better fit for your business. So we've decided that the Filipinos are the most efficient for what we're doing. They've got the best customer service skills. And you can go on, there's a website called onlinejobs.ph. And you pay monthly to post your ad, and that's all you'll need is 1 month, because you'll get enough applications to make a decision. And then you interview them just like any other job. We do, they communicate mostly through WhatsApp because that's free international calling essentially. And then we'll do like a Google Meet live, in person, so we can actually see them and engage with them and get to know them a little bit. The hard part is building that system, because they've got to have like when this happens, do this. When this happens, do this. When this happens, do this. And when you give them the outline, they go and do it. And you spend a couple of weeks with them, just like any new hire, of a lot of, over the phone and Google Meet type stuff of training them up. And then eventually, they're just like any other employee. And I mean, Bless is as much a part of our organization as anyone else in the company. And she's been with us a little over a year. And, she started at $150 a week. We've got her bumped up to $200 a week. And then I throw her a really healthy Christmas bonus. For her, it's life-changing, because last year I sent her $1,500. And, when you think that, I mean, they're living on a $10,000 a year budget, like, that's a huge bonus. And, I mean, she is extremely influential in our business. So it's definitely a good opportunity but it's not for every position, right? You can't use them for absolutely everything. But if you're trying to offload some low value opportunities, like, I'm highly considering having one of them sort through my emails and getting rid of the trash, because I probably get 400 emails a day and I only need to answer 50 of them. The other 350, I could pay a VA $4 an hour to go do that for me.
Can you speak to this? It sounds like they're not getting paid very much. Can you speak to what that actually means for them?
Yeah, this is one of the conversations Joe and I just had. So, because he's like, man, how do they survive? Well, the exchange rates play a huge factor in that. So when I pay Bless in American dollars, that's $11,000 in Filipino pesos. And her rent is in the 10,000 peso a month range. So she's only paying about a quarter of her wages in rent. So when you actually look at, are we taking advantage of them in comparison? No. Like, we're providing them a much better opportunity than they could get locally, because that American dollar is so much stronger. Mm-hmm.
The VAs, you're hiring them individually?
I do, yes. So if you're looking for a single VA and you want assistance in doing that, I would recommend doing an agency. But if you intend to hire multiple and you think you're going to build a team, then I think it makes more sense to hire them directly. So the agencies, you'll see them all over the place. There's tons of them. Do your due diligence and research on them. The advantage of an agency, those VAs are reporting to an office. They have a manager. They're providing them with just any other structure that a business would have. So if you're not ready to provide that type of structure, then the agency makes a good idea. Instead of paying $4 an hour, you're probably going to pay $7.50. But still, you can't hire anybody here for $7.50 an hour. So don't be afraid of using an agency if you're like, I only need a part-time VA. That's another great thing about the agencies. You can hire somebody for 15 hours a week through an agency. And they'll scale up or down because they probably have 50 different people that are reporting to that call center every day and doing everybody's tasks. And then they're managing them and training them and churning them when necessary, hire, fire decisions. You don't have to deal with that. You just, you just deal with, these are the tasks that I need done. I send them to the agency, they're done. So, but yeah, for us personally, we're hiring them direct. We've had 2 of them that haven't worked out, that we hired this year, and so that's why we're hiring new ones going into next year. But
What's cool, and I don't know how the other countries work, is that they could get some training through this and maybe start their own outfit where they're at.
oh yeah. I found that, so the Filipinos specifically are extremely loyal. Like so one of them one of them that we hired that didn't work out, she quit because she didn't think she was providing enough value to us. It was interesting because I'm like, no, this is a very difficult task for you to learn. Like, I totally understand. Like, I'm not giving up on you just yet. She gave up on herself because she didn't feel that she was providing us enough value. So, I mean, they've got that level of loyalty and personal responsibility towards the business. So, I definitely think that their culture is amazing, and that's why we've focused on hiring the people there specifically. All right. Any other questions? I'll kind of go on. How much time do we have? Okay. So I'll kind of go on to some other things that I wanted to talk to as we continue to build our business. One of the things that I've also been faced with in my career, I've talked to a lot of other business owners that are like, I want to provide the best business that I can for myself. And others that are in the position that I am, that's like, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to build a legacy, right? And you kind of have to decide for yourself which avenue you want to take. And they're very, very different. And I caution this because you have to make the decision early on, or as early on as possible, right? Of which way you want to go. Because one of the mistakes that I've seen people make is deciding that they want to scale a business, even though that's not truly what they wanted. They thought that's what they were going for. There's plenty of people that run extremely successful companies that are self-employed, and they're making themselves a great living. They're providing for their families. They don't have anybody to answer to. They don't want to manage teams, right? Not everybody can lead. So you have to make that decision and realize what it is that makes the most sense for you as an individual. Me personally, I'm a systems builder. If you look at the EOS system, that the book traction, which we've got back here on the table, that's something that talks about realizing what you need to do as a leader and how to build your business, and finding the strengths and weaknesses in yourself and in each member of your team, so that you've got the right people in the right seats. Sometimes that means that we're going to continue to be self-employed. And there's nothing wrong with that if you recognize that that's the best thing for you. If you're a loan officer, not to pick on the banker, but you probably don't need a huge team, right? You may need an admin person to just help you with some paperwork, but running 40 people, like, how much would that benefit you? On the same lines, if you're going to run 1,200 roofs a year, you're going to need 35 people to do that. You can't really do that any other way. So deciding what way you want to go early on in your business is going to help you to build the business as best you can. We're not all like me. I get more benefit out of watching other people grow and succeed than I do out of, my personal successes. For example, one of my former employees, his name is Dave. He owns a roofing company as well. He was our general manager. When we closed the business, he went and partnered with one of our top salespeople, and guess what? They built a very successful roofing company. They're bigger than us right now. I keep telling them I'm going to beat them, which is, here nor there. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, watching Dave's success is one of those things that gives me a lot of joy as well. Because Dave called me a year ago, and he's like, Kirk, I just want to let you know, man, that you changed my life forever. And I'm so appreciative of that. And one of the things with Dave specifically is Dave came to us. He was living in a halfway house. He had just gotten out of jail. He was, drug user, was trying to get out of this addiction. Didn't have a lot of opportunity. Well, who can give him opportunity? A roofing company, right? Because at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're just slinging shingles. There's plenty of opportunity for a guy with a criminal past to make something of himself. And one thing that Dave did really well when he came in and joined us is he was one of those people that said, okay, I'm going to learn this step of the business, and then this step, and then this step, and then this step. And he became a very integral part of the company. And to watch him go from, this punk kid on probation who doesn't have anything really in his life to now he's built a good business. He's bought his first house. He's married with 2 kids, and everything is going in the right direction. And, for him to be grateful for us to help him get there. But from my aspect, it's like, Dave, you helped up me so much as well. You are our general manager. You helped build us to that 1,200 roof number. We couldn't have done it without you. So it's really awesome to be able to watch people develop and grow like that as we build our businesses. And like I said, just getting back to it, it's finding the right people in the right seats. This is one of the most important things that we can do. We've got a couple of people that I'm wondering if they're in the right seats right now. And not necessarily that they're the wrong person for the company. Maybe one of them is. Maybe not. Was yet to be seen, right? But they're definitely in the wrong seat. And we need to find a way, how do we transition them into something else that they can be successful at, that they can add more value? Or do we just go ahead and make that decision to let them go? And I'll tell you something else that I fired a lot of people, obviously. When we were running 50 people, there's decisions that have to be made and people lose their jobs. Sometimes the best thing that we can do for them is to let them go. Right? Like they're not growing, they're not happy, they're not developing. That's probably affecting their personal life because they hate their job. So let's let them go. Free them and allow them to go back out into the world and find something that they do enjoy. I mean, I'll never forget, I had one person that we've fired. He came into my office, I sat him down, hey, look, this isn't working out. And he took his arm and swiped my desk, right? And threw everything down on the floor and walked out super mad and called us 6 months later and said, hey, you know what, I apologize for being a jerk. And I found something that's so much more fitting for me. And, it's the best thing that happened. So I apologize that I reacted the way that I did, but at the end of the day, that's what we needed. We don't realize like how much we take home that work baggage home, right? Like if we hate our job and we're not happy with what we're doing, we're probably not happy with our spouse. We're probably not giving our kids enough time because we've used every ounce of patience that we have left. So, that's something that we need to make sure that we're recognizing as well. And I can tell you this, when you start to question if this person is going to help you grow your business, it's probably about time to go ahead and have that conversation, because what ends up happening is by the time you recognize it, it's too late, right? The damage has already been done. Now, finding the person that you're like, hey, this person isn't necessarily doing what I need them to do in this role, but yet they're still loyal, they're still dedicated, they're still living our values. That's the person I need to change their seat, right? I need to move them into a different task so that I can hopefully continue to be able to find the right opportunity for them and me. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on, and I know I'll throw a little bit of a curveball here, is as we're developing our businesses, there's so many different steps that you need to take to make sure that your business is going to succeed, right? Because we can hire all the people we want, and we can develop this awesome company, but if we're not building on a solid foundation, then it's not going to last. It's going to fall apart. And you can have that flash in the pan, that instant gratification, but yet not build a stable foundation that's going to allow you to run your business long term. my business, ASAP Roofing, would still be around today if it hadn't been the partnership falling apart. The company structure and the culture was amazing. Everybody that worked there, not everybody, but the vast majority of people that worked there, they would have taken a bullet for us. I mean, they truly believed in what we were building. They were passionate about the company. We did a lot of cool things together. Where we caused the issue, and we saw it coming and we didn't make a change, is we allowed a divide to happen in our partnership. So if you're dealing with partners, it's a marriage, right? We have to work at that relationship just as much as we work with our spouse. So as soon as that divide started to happen, and Igor and I, so there's three of us, me, Nick, and Igor. So Igor and I started to divide against Nick. And it wasn't for any particular reason at the beginning, right? It's just that Igor and I had a little bit different vision and we aligned better with where we were going, and we didn't really take Nick's perspective into play as much. So what ended up happening is that allowed Nick to feel like, I don't have a say in this thing, so why should I bother, right? So he became just disconnected. He wasn't as much a member of the team. It's just like any employee relationship, only worse because he owned equity in the business. So as we continued to notice this disconnect, that only caused Igor and I to continue to move away from Nick, farther and farther apart. We continued to create this divide. And ultimately, it's one of those things that looking back on it, I wish that I had done things differently, because at the end of the day, I could have probably, would the business still be here today? Possibly. Would that partnership ultimately have failed? Hard to say. But had we made other changes, we probably would have gone different course, and we wouldn't have had to dissolve the company and walk away with essentially nothing. I say nothing. We still walked away pretty healthily, but it's different rolling up a company of that size and not being able to find a way to have better handled that. So as we're building our companies, we need to look at our foundation. Do we have our values, our mission, our structure? And one of the best ways that I've been involved in is EOS, right? And the entrepreneurial operating system is something that helps you to develop those systems. And the book Traction, if you haven't read it already, then please do. There's copies here. It just gives you an opportunity to really hone in on yourself and realize where you need to be as a leader. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work myself out of a job. And the only way for me to do that is to continue to work people like Joe up and into our organization to where they start to run the business. And without having a goal and making sure that you know where you're going, it's very difficult. So look into that. One of the other books that I've read that's really helped us, and we don't utilize the model, but Profit First. That book was probably more powerful for me as we grew our business than any other book that I read. And one of the things that, if you haven't read it already, I'm not going to tell you too much of it, but one of the things that it really boils down to is, if you're not, as an owner of the business, if you're not taking profit, if you're not experiencing the victories that happens as your business grows, you're not going to be successful because you're not invested in it enough. So by taking your profit first and allowing yourself to feel those victories, it actually helps you to grow and build your business on top of that. So those are two of the books that I've read. One of the other things that I really, truly liked, and more, I think it helps us resonate, some of our personal beliefs into people that are more successful than us, was The Millionaire Next Door. And one of the things with that one specifically that resonated with me is most of these super wealthy business owners, 10 million plus net worth back in the 90s or early 2000s when they wrote that book, they were the most down-to-earth people. They weren't the people that you would expect to be worth $10 million. When we look at society and we see the guy driving around in the G-Wagon, we're like, man, what does that guy do? Most of the people driving those cars are not wealthy. They may be high-income earners, but they're not wealthy. And what I've tried to accomplish in what I've done is build wealth. Everything that I want to do is towards driving to that next level. And I foresee myself as having an opportunity to reach a $10 million net worth in my lifetime. And how much good could I do with that, right? Make it easier on my kids to be successful and give back to others and help to develop people like Dave, who I've already taken from nothing and helped him get to the levels that he's been able to accomplish in his life. And our philanthropy can be helped so much by earning more and having that opportunity. So it's very important to really realize, what is our goal? What is my life mission? And, self-proclaimed workaholic here. I'm not going to say otherwise, but, my mission is to help as many people as I can realize that there is so much opportunity in this world if we're willing to take it. I've been very blessed in what I've been able to accomplish in my life, to build these businesses, to be able to weather some major storms, right? I've had 2 businesses fail that, do I point the blame at myself? No, because I pointed at other people. But on the same hand, those were failures. And what could I have done differently to make those successful? And I'm instilling that in the new organization and making sure that everything that we do today is to build sustainability, so that this company will be the last, maybe not the last, because I do think I'll sell it. But I'm going to build it, and I'm going to make sure that it's operating at its full capacity and that we can take it to a level that ASAP Roofing was never able to accomplish. So I think we have a couple more minutes. We can ask a few more questions if you guys have them. Yes?
So you consider yourself a manager or a leader?
Right now I'm more manager, but I'm definitely trying to work into that more leadership role. So I'm definitely involved in the day-to-day operations. There's 10 people at the company right now, which, some of you may think that's a lot, but, we're only a third of what I would expect. So, yeah.
With the hiring, was it kind of you said you would do it thoughtfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you might not necessarily have the resources in your budget to hire for this person. Did you use some type of ROI kind of forecast or some kind of some litmus test to get you over that edge, and specifically with sales, right?
Right. So sales is the easiest one to track KPIs, and actually knowing your numbers on that, because it's directly correlated with revenue. It's harder to identify that with an administrative person than it is with a sales rep. So specifically, no, but it's something that you need to develop. Okay, if I'm going to make this hire, right, and I'm going to pay them $65,000 a year, what does that ROI need to look like? And realistically, I made the comment before, not today, but it just in passing, if you're paying a guy $65 a year, you need to generate, $130,000 a year worth of business to make that a worthwhile decision. So if you don't think that they can double their own pay, then it's probably not, you're probably not quite ready, or you haven't figured out the way to make that pay off. So, any other questions? And I'm happy to talk more, on the networking part, of course, but does anybody have a last question they want to ask? Okay. Well, thank you guys for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here. All right, thanks.